Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the channel. And I'm not here. I'm here, but I'm not in studio. I am actually in Las Vegas, Nevada at Caesar's Palace. And thank you to our friends at Caesar's Palace, by the way. I came out here to meet Anne, who's been gone all week. She's been off on a business trip out on the East Coast, out in Pennsylvania, which is where the head offices are of the company that she is the vice president of. And so I haven't seen her in like a week, so came out to Vegas. She's down at the pool right now, hanging out at the pool, while I came in here to do open mic. And it's good to have you guys here with us. Yeah, tonight we're pretty excited because Ann and I were going to go to this buffet in Vegas that we've always wanted to try. We've heard great things about it. It's the buffet over at the Wynn Hotel. So we're going to go try that buffet. We love eating in Vegas. And then after that, we're going to go see Seinfeld tonight. Jerry Seinfeld is performing in Las Vegas tonight. We're going to go that. Then we're going to go, we got a bunch of stuff we're doing tomorrow, and we're going to go watch UFC tomorrow here in Vegas. So yeah, a lot of great things that we're doing out here, but it is time for open mic. The show here where all we do is take your questions. Now there's two different ways you can get topics or questions on the open mic. Number one is if you're not watching the show live, you're watching the show pre-recorded or something, it's like 2 a.m, whatever, you can use our tip link at streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. And you can send in a question that way. Or if you're watching live, like a bunch of you guys are right now, you can go ahead and use the super chat feature that's in the live chat there and send in a question. The super chats are open right now. We'll leave them open for a little while longer and then we're going to close them down. This will not probably be a full hour open mic, as I do want to get to dinner. But I still wanted to have one today. So hello, everybody. Good to have you guys here. Good to see you. So I want to talk about this first before we got into the questions. You know, I did the podcast earlier today, the John Campea Show podcast. Should be up for you guys to see now. And one of the stories that we covered was there's a report going around. Now, it's not from one of the major trades, but it is coming, I believe, from Jeff Schneider, who isn't always right, but gets a lot of stuff right. And he was talking about how a couple of interesting things about the upcoming Matt Reeves Batman sequel. The first thing is that they're looking at Two-Face as probably being the main antagonist, which makes sense. And I talked about this in the podcast earlier. It makes sense for Two-Face because this Matt Reeves Gotham, this Matt Reeves Batman world has been a lot more grounded, right? A lot more real than, say, Ben Affleck's Batman that lived in a universe with flying aliens who shot lasers out of their eyes. That's not the Matt Reeves Batman universe. So a character like Two-Face is a good one to use. Now, the other thing that Jeff said was that they've already narrowed down, and whether this is true or not, I cannot attest to this. This is not coming from any of my sources, but, you know, he says that there's come down to 2 primary candidates to play Two-Face, and that's Josh Hartnett and Joel Edgerton. And I like both of these guys very, very much. And I think both of them would do an incredible job playing Two-Face. Josh Hartnett, I mean, whether it's stuff like Sin City, by the way, he was in Josh Hartnett a couple of years ago. He kind of came back out of nowhere and starred in that show Penny Dreadful. I don't know if any of you guys in the live chat have ever watched Penny Dreadful. He was really good in that. He's actually a very, very good actor. Unfortunately, I think today he would be a major A-list actor. He was just in Operation Fortune 2 with Jason Statham. He was really good in that. But I think today, Josh Hartnett would be a major A-list actor if it wasn't for Pearl Harbor. I think Pearl Harbor, no pun intended, kind of sunk his career a little bit. Anyway, and then there's Joel Edgerton, who I really first took real notice of Joel Edgerton back a bunch of years ago when he was in this MMA movie with Tom Hardy called Warrior. And he was awesome in that movie, like so good. And then, you know, Zero Dark 30. He's got, what's the name of that one? I'm freezing on the name of the one that he directed too. I think it was called The Gift or something like that. He was incredible in that. Of course, he's Uncle Owen in the new Star Wars, you know, reality and all that kind of stuff. Love him. I think either of those two guys would be an absolutely wonderful Harvey Dent. I think they're both top-notch actors. I think they would both be great. So yes, I'm excited about seeing that. And I think it would turn out really good. And again, I mean, I'm not saying that any villain that they do in this Matt Reeves Batman universe has to just be a normal guy, but you can't have like a Killer Croc, right? Unless Killer Croc is just this gang leader who that's his nickname, Killer Croc. You know, you can't have Clayface unless it's literally just an actor and they say he's so good at impersonations, they call him Clayface. You have to bring it down to a more realistic thing. I think the furthest you can push it, and we've talked about this before on the show, is like a Mr. Freeze. Like, take Mr. Freeze less out of science fiction and make it a little bit more science-based and ground him a little bit more. I think he would work really well too. At least that's kind of my take on it. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. Whatever you guys think, if you guys have thoughts on that, go ahead and fire them in and we'll discuss those. Okay, for now though, let's get over and start answering your questions that you guys have sent in. We're going to start with the tip questions you guys sent in. And we're going to start here with Full Boil, who writes, hello, John. I saw your discussion that showed a noticeable box office drop for Thor 4, partially due to its quality. Do you think it could have also been due to it not releasing in China and Russia? Ragnarok made 112 million in China and 23 million in Russia. We talked about this before. The problem with that is that the assumption that those numbers would have held if the next one came in and that those numbers wouldn't have taken a drop like they did in most of the other global market, right? So it's impossible to say. Like, the Chinese box office market reacts different ways to different movies all the time, and there doesn't seem to be a noticeable pattern. Sometimes it'll make like 12 million, sometimes it'll make like 112 million. So it's really impossible to say at that point. All right. Next up, we've got an anonymous viewer writes in. So Ray says, we all the same. I'm never going to tell you what that inside joke is. Did it happen to involve the color pink? Nope. You may not believe me, but I have heard Saw X is shockingly great. I'll tell you this. It's a sort of period piece. It's a sequel to Saw 1 and involves a shady doctor. You know, I'll be honest with you. As much as anybody else, I enjoyed the first Saw film. I did. I really enjoyed it. However, Saw went way off the rails. I'd be lying to you if I told you I had any interest in the Saw franchise anymore. I just don't. They went so far off the rails with that I just don't care. And then they kept figuring out, trying to bring back Jigsaw. It's like, well, but he was dying of cancer. And then he's still dying of cancer. Still, oh, now he's dead. But he's kind of back from the dead. He's still doing it from beyond the grave. And it just, I don't know. I kind of just got over it. 2 wasn't bad. Patrick in the live chat is saying 2 was pretty good. Yeah, 2 wasn't bad. It wasn't. But it just, they kept going and going and going. I would honestly not mind seeing them just do a straight up reboot. I honestly, at this point, would just love for them to just straight up reboot Saw. And I think there's a lot of potential there to do something fun with it. Okay, that's the wrong screen. There we go. Next up, we got Amin, who writes, you've said multiple times how you think Return of the King is the greatest achievement in filmmaking. I do. Not the greatest movie of all time, but the greatest achievement in filmmaking. I believe it's that. Anyway, do you think that Across the Spider-Verse is the greatest achievement in animation? No, I do not. Finally saw the film last night and I was in awe. What a film. Yeah, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is easily the best film of the year so far. What they were able to accomplish in that was absolutely incredible. However, do I think it's the greatest achievement in animation ever? No, it's very unique. It's a very stimulating visual style. I've come to really love the visual style. But do I think it's the single greatest achievement in animation? I would stop short of saying that. I would stop short of that. That's just me, though. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Eddie Burton writes, so Fast 10 Part 2 coming out in April of 2025. How can Universal expect to be able to release a Hobbs movie before Fast 10 Part 2 comes out? Hobbs is supposed to lead into the final Fast film, and I just don't see how they can do it in under 2 years. Oh, they can do that, no problem. It's really all a matter of how long has it been in the planning stages. Like, usually when Hollywood announces a film, right? Usually when a film is announced, that film has been in process already for a number of months and months and months, right? And we've seen examples of movies that have shot and released in the same year, right? It's not often, but movies can be shot and then released in the exact same year. Hobbs and Shaw will be a bigger film, but it's still mid-2023. If they've already been in development on this movie and had already kind of decided this movie like 5 months ago, they could go into production. I'm not saying I've heard anything. I'm just saying theoretically speaking, they could go into production on the Dwayne Johnson Hobbs movie, say in October or November, and shoot for 3 months, do 6 months of post-production, and still make a 2024 release date. I mean, it's actually not that crazy. It wouldn't even be pushing it. It would be pretty standard. Again, it would all depend on how far along and how much work they've actually done to get this movie put together. If they have or not. Like if they still haven't even written a script, well then yeah, they're never going to get a Hobbs and Shaw or a Hobbs movie out before, Fast 11. But I have a feeling it's probably already done. I mean, that's my guess at any rate. Anyway, guys, listen. We're going to take just a quick second here and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of Open Mic, our friends at Honey. Today's episode of the John Campea Show is brought to you by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. Guys, more and more we enjoy shopping online, whether it's on our phones or our computers. And how many times have you gotten to the checkout and seen that promo code box and thought, man, if I only had a promo code, I could save some money? Well, thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. So here's the situation. You're shopping online on one of your favorite sites, and when you go to checkout, the Honey button appears, and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons. Then just wait a few seconds as Honey works its magic and searches for coupons it can find for that site that you're on, and if Honey finds a working coupon, just watch the price drop. Recently, Ann and I were hanging out at home one evening and we decided to order in, and the Honey button appeared. I was able to apply a coupon and I actually saved like $6 or $7. It was that easy to use. And Honey doesn't just work on your desktop computer, it also works on your iPhone. Just activate it on Safari on your phone and save on the go. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/Campea. That's joinhoney.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Honey for sponsoring this episode of Open Mic. By the way, big thank you to all. We've signed a whole bunch of new sponsors. The transition to the podcast has gone great. Thank you so much, guys. We've attracted some new sponsors. You're going to be seeing them in the upcoming weeks. And thank you to Honey for being one of our sponsors. It's a great, great thing you should be using every single day. I've used it a number of times, and I think you would enjoy it a lot. All right. With that down, let's keep on going with the questions you guys have sent in. All right. Again, I clicked the wrong button. Okay. Sorry, guys. This is not my usual setup here. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Las Vegas. Owen Mono writes, one of two. The movie Flamin Hot. Oh, this is a movie Ray has been dying to watch. Is a biopic that showcases the life of Richard Montañez and tells the story of the origins of the famous Flamin Hot Cheetos. This inspiring film takes viewers on a journey that delves deep into the emotional struggles of a man who dreamed of creating a spicy snack, fusing his Mexican heritage with his love for hot and spicy foods. The movie will undoubtedly captivate the hearts and minds of those who share a passion for Fritos products. Listen, I remember when they first announced this movie. I remember it was like a couple of years ago they announced that they were doing this movie. And I am a sucker for movies about the behind the scenes stories of things that are common things in our lives, right? That's why I love The Social Network, because everybody uses Facebook. So hearing the behind the scenes story of Facebook is kind of neat. Air Jordans. I grew up wearing Air Jordans, right? So the movie Air, telling the story about how did those come to be. And then something like Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Like, I don't eat them because I don't eat anything spicy. I've got a complete baby mouth. Total baby mouth. I am the wussiest of the wusses when it comes to spicy food. Even my wings, I can't eat mild wings. I usually just get honey garlic. Or naked wings with a side of ranch. I cannot handle spicy food like at all. I'm a total embarrassment to my Italian heritage. I cannot handle spicy food. So I cannot eat Flamin Hot Cheetos. Can't eat them at all. But I've always been fascinated by the story of this. And Ray, again, is really been excited. He's just been talking about it every single day. All right, let's keep going here. Next up, we've got Max Charez, who writes, "Oh my God, you guys need to watch more on Flamin Hot. Flamin Hot movie that's streaming on both Disney Plus and Hulu. It just came out today. It's the origin story of the Flamin Hot Cheetos and the other Frito-Lay's products. Ray, you're not ready for this amazing movie." And again, Ray has been talking about this movie so much, he's been dying to watch it. All right, next up, Mike Howard, also apparently writing about Flamin Hot. He writes, "Ray, you need to watch Flamin Hot on Disney Plus or Hulu. Whatever you have, this is literally your dream movie that you didn't know you needed." Man, this thing is sounding really good. I think I better rush out and watch it pretty quick here. Let's see, next up. Be Cool writes, "We don't need a Batman Beyond movie. We have the best Batman Beyond movie already made. It's called The Mask of Zorro. Am I right?" Well, this is a very close story, actually. Anyway, pretty sure the Battinson's parents took him to see that movie the night they were killed. Is that, I mean, are you joking or is that true? Guys in the live chat, do you know? Like, was that the movie they went to go see in the Batman? Was the movie that they saw actually Zorro? I'd say, oh, Bright is saying, yeah, it's true. That was the movie they went to go see. Only Amir is saying they never saw the movie, but it was The Mask of Zorro. You know what? I don't think I've seen the movie like 3 or 4 times, and I don't think I ever paid attention or noticed what movie specifically they were watching. I learn something new every day doing this show. Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, next up, we go to Full Boil, who writes, "I use a 2014 Nikon D3300 as my all-purpose camera for photography. I've only used the 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens. Can buying a non-kit lens produce better images? Yes. Do you have any suggestions for general purpose lens? Thanks. Have fun in Vegas." So here's the problem. I can't give you a recommendation on a lens because I don't use a Nikon camera. And Nikon camera use different lenses than, say, Canon uses or Sony uses or whatever. But what I would recommend is, I'm sure Nikon cameras, you can buy prime lenses. Now, prime lenses are movies with a fixed focal length. Like instead of 18 to 55 millimeter zoom in and out, you can't zoom with them. They have one focal length, right? So I have a couple of prime lenses. I have a 15 millimeter prime lens, a 30 millimeter prime lens, and a 50 millimeter prime lens. And prime lenses, you will notice the difference immediately. Once you slap a prime lens on, like, look, I am not a photography or videography expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a guy who's used a bunch of the stuff. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, the difference between when I've used a kit lens on a camera and then switched over to a prime lens is like, the angels start to sing and everything. It makes a massive, massive difference. Okay. Where did it go? There it is. Next up, we've got Elon Musk Not Parody writes, "Domestic proportion makes a big difference. Both Ragnarok and Wakanda Forever, made 860 million. Wakanda's domestic was bigger than international, resulting in net profit of 250 million, but Ragnarok's was 170 million to smite a smaller budget, 180 million, than Wakanda's 250. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a math to be done with calculating cost ratio, domestic versus international markets, and even which international markets, right? Because every single international market takes its own proportion of box office dollars versus the return on the studios and, more importantly, the distributors, right? But there's not one basic thing. I've often said, though, when I was at AMC Theaters, I had the vice president of programming, basically laid out to me this way. He said, there's a lot of ups and downs with different markets, whatever. The basic rule of thumb is, at the end of the day, movie theaters keep about a third. Now, there are rates where they're higher and rates where they're lower. There's times in their release cycle that those rates are higher, and then times in an individual film's release cycle that they are lower. One country will have this number, and that goes up and down depending where in the release cycle the movie is. Another country with another theater chain will have a different rate, but that will also vary from the release cycle point of the movie and all that kind of stuff. And that's why they said, look, it's not science, but generally speaking, the executive at AMC told me, it basically comes down to a third, generally. Generally speaking, the studios and the distributors will get back roughly 2/3 at the end of the day. At some points, that's higher. At some points, that's lower. But generally speaking, the wash is generally that. And again, it's not an exact science, right? You'd have to go through a lot of calculations to get the overall thing, but that's generally how it works. All right. With that down, guys, let's now move over. If I am going to be able to do this, give me a second. I've got to now line up the super chat questions that you guys sent. And by the way, I've turned off the super chats, just so you guys know. The super chats have been turned off. Let's see. It's going to take me a minute to get this set up. Give me a moment here. I'm not in studio, so I'm kind of doing this by the seat of my pants here. Okay, so if I switch over to this and I do this and drag this over here, then we're good, right? Right? Yeah, okay. You're not going to be able to see the name of the people. I'm just going to have to tell you the name of the people, okay? Are we good on that? Okay. So the first one up is Bobby Jackson writes, I know you're not a big IMAX guy. Oh, no, I like IMAX very much. I really like IMAX. I just prefer AMC Dolby Prime. That's my favorite one, but I will love going to IMAX screens. I do. Anyway, I know you're not a big IMAX guy, but if you had to choose only one movie that you could see in IMAX, which would it be? MI7 or Oppenheimer? Mission Impossible 7. For me, like when I'm going to see the bigger, best screens, that's more for action. I think the action is going to look and the scenery and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's going to be more benefit of that watching on IMAX and say Oppenheimer. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to watch Oppenheimer. I'd love to see Oppenheimer on the IMAX screen as well. But if I had to pick one between the two, it would be Mission Impossible 7. Not that I think Mission Impossible 7 necessarily is going to be the better movie. I'm just saying I think that's more leaning towards what I would want on the bigger screen. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's just that. All right. Next up, we got Suthius, who writes, I'm probably late, but I just realized in Age of Ultron, when Tony is choosing a new AI, we see a chip named Tadashi, Baymax's AI from Big Hero 6. Is that true? Is that true in Age of Ultron? There's an AI chip called Tadashi. I have never noticed that. And I've watched Age of Ultron is one of those movies that the more I watch it, the more I kind of appreciate it. Age of Ultron gets a bad rap, but honestly, the more I watch it, the more I'm like, you know what? This movie's actually really good. It's really good. But anyway, I have not seen that, but Mike Rod is saying, yeah, it's true. It's in there. That's a nice little shout out to Big Hero 6. By the way, I loved Big Hero 6. I thought the animated show stuff was stupid, but I really loved Big Hero 6. Okay. Next up, we've got Sam Fisher, who writes, one of two. I've been recently watching compilations of bloopers from the golden age of Hollywood. Those are golden. They're hilarious. It's so interesting. Watch a stalwart like Bogart, Hepburn, and Grant mess up, laugh, get angry at themselves in a movie where reality really was heightened like it was back then. Here's an interesting thing, too, to keep in mind about bloopers and stuff like that. Today, we make movies digitally, right? Like movie directors today, unlike, say, even just 15 years ago, don't use film cameras to shoot movies. Right? I'm sure some still do, but generally speaking. And so that's nothing. That's cheap. That doesn't cost anything. Film used to be expensive. And it was a pain in the ass because you had to change canisters and all this kind of stuff, right? And so when you were making movies back then, if you didn't get the shot, it was actually a bigger deal back then than it is today. Because it's no big deal. It's just taking up hard drive space. It's nothing, right? But back then it was harder and it meant a little bit more. it meant a little bit more when you made a mistake like that. So yes, I remember watching some of the ones like, I'd go back and watch old movies like Cannonball Run and stuff like that and watch the bloopers on those. Those are really fun. Those are fun to see. All right, next up. We have Jedi Master Bader, who writes one of two. Between Air and Across the Spider-Verse, it's a big year for Air Jordans. It really is. Air made me a fan of those sneakers that I ended up buying 5 pairs within a month, and I'm possibly buying my 6th, 7th, and 8th pretty soon. Air isn't just a great film, it's also an effective marketing tool. I think both of those are true. As a matter of fact, I am not a sneaker collector guy. As a matter of fact, I have 2 pairs of shoes. Well, actually, I have 3 pairs of shoes. I have 1 pair of walking shoes that I wear just every day. Then I have another pair of shoes that I use just for going to the gym. And then I have some nice shoes that I wear when I'm going to an event or something like that. That's it. 3 pairs. That's all I have. I have no more. I have never in my life owned more than 3 pairs at once. Quite often in my life, I've had 1 pair of shoes. Now, I don't know if you guys remember a guy by the name of Matt Barnyard. Matt used to be a co-host of mine on back when I did a show called For Your Consideration. And he's hilarious. He's great. His wife and my wife have been best friends since grade school. Anyway, Matt is one of these guys that is a shoe collector. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Ann told me that one entire room in their house is all Matt's shoes, all the Jordans, and a few other shoes too, like collect all the Jordans. And my wife Ann had to enter a lottery just to win the Spider-Verse, win the right to buy the Spider-Verse Air Jordans. So Ann's got her pair of Spider-Verse Air Jordans. And even to get them, she had to enter a lottery just so she could buy them. Like, don't enter a lottery so she can win them. She had to enter a lottery so she could have the right to pay for them and buy them. And yeah, I grew up always having Air Jordans and stuff like that. I haven't owned a pair of Air Jordans in a long time. But I'll tell you what, after watching Air, just like you, I've been very, very tempted to go and get myself another pair of Air Jordans myself, as a matter of fact. So you're right. It's a great movie, but it's also a really, really good marketing tool. Okay, guys, listen, we're going to take a second here and thank a couple of more sponsors of today's episode of Open Mic, our friends at Manscaped, and of course, my mobile service provider, Mint Mobile. Father's Day is right around the corner and you haven't gotten your dad anything yet? Don't worry. That's where our sponsors, Manscaped, come in. You and I both know he needs some serious grooming in his life, so grab your dad the Performance Package 4.0 and he'll thank you for helping him tame that beastly hair. Go to manscaped.com and use code CAMPEA for 20% off plus free shipping. Guys, I don't know if your dad's anything like mine, but where my dad lacks some hair on top of his head, believe me, he makes up for it everywhere else on his body, and Manscaped is perfect for him. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and perfected their game with the Lawnmower 4.0. This is the perfect gift, presenting a sleek, well-designed, and optimized grooming kit that says your balls will thank you right on the box. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. This upgraded trimmer includes a multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock. This is great for any guy who does a lot of traveling. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Haven't you always wanted to be able to shave your balls in the dark? And come on, guys, almost all of our dads have that nose bush sticking out of their nose, right? Well, the Weed Whacker 2.0, the nose and ear hair trimmer, is the best nose trimmer on the market and the perfect gift for your dad. Guys, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code CAMPEA. Don't forget, you came from your dad's balls, so this year, show your original home some love with Manscaped. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Manscaped and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of Open Mic. All right, guys, we got a bunch of questions left, so let's finish it off and get through the rest of them, shall we? We're going to start off here with Jedi Master, who once again writes in, Dominic Toretto only eats breakfast and breakfast and breakfurious. You know what? I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. All right, next up, Arthur writes, Visconti, Italian filmmaker, made movies who will cost billions of dollars if they were made today. I don't believe that. I mean, I'm not factually saying that's not true because I'd have to look it up. I don't know. I'm just saying before looking it up, I'm saying I don't believe that. I don't think that's accurate, but maybe I'm wrong. Arthur also writes, talk about the Untouchable series, please. I haven't watched it, so I can't watch the show. I think we brought this up on the show the other day. I mean, I never watched the Untouchable series. I've only ever watched the Untouchables movie. Arthur also writes, have you seen the Bob Dylan movie Masked and Anonymous? No, I saw the other Bob Dylan movie, but I've not seen Masked and Anonymous. If not, I invite you to see it. Who is in that one? Does anybody in the live chat know who is in that Bob Dylan one, or was it a documentary? I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. I'm just familiar with the title. Does anybody know? Anybody? I know there's like a 10-second delay, but I'll see if anybody in the live chat knows who it is. No, nobody knows. Okay, nobody knows. Somebody's saying Ryan Reynolds. I doubt that's not true, is it? I can't. No, really? Jeff Bridges? Is this an older movie? Anyway, okay. Need to move on. Next up, Arthur also writes, artist in one day, 8 hours sleeping, 8 hours paying the rent, 8 hours giving the best. Is that actually from something? I'm not familiar with it. Never Lose Your Nerd writes, I can't wait to meet Hayden and Rosario. I'm guessing you mean Hayden Christensen and Rosario Dawson at the Fan Expo in Dallas tomorrow. Anybody else here going and would love to see you come to Texas someday, John? I have actually, I have never been into like getting my picture taken and going to like cons and festivals and getting the autographs and picture taken with celebs. I've just never been into it. It wasn't until about a year ago that Anne suggested, hey, we're going to this thing in Giancarlo Esposito, Moff Gideon from Mandalorian. He's going to be there. We should you can get our picture taken with him and get an autograph. And I thought, you know what, that would actually be pretty cool. And so we signed up and did it. And we actually had fun. And so ever since we did that, we've done it one or two more times. So I totally get now why a lot of people will go to these conventions and like spend a lot of the convention just waiting in line to get their pictures and meet these folks. And it's actually pretty cool. I've still only done it 2 or 3 times, but I now absolutely get the appeal of it. I get why people do it. All right, next up, we got Bobby Jackson who writes, in regards to today's audio question regarding an X-Files revival, oh yeah, we talked about that on the podcast earlier today. Chris Carpenter mentioned about a month ago that Ryan Coogler is working on one. Is that true? Actually, did I already hear that and I'm just not remembering it? That's interesting. That Ryan Coogler is working on... How does Ryan Coogler have time to work on an X-Files thing though? Like he's got this Wakanda Disney Plus show that he's working on. And how would he have time for that? But that's really a Ryan Coogler X-Files revival. Okay, I'd be down for checking that out. Sure, why not? All right, next up, James Argento writes, I think Tamora Morrison will appear as Captain Rex in Ahsoka. I have not heard anything that suggests that. With all the casting and all the set reports and everything, I have not heard anything about Tamora Morrison returning as Captain Rex. But considering that Morrison is back in the Star Wars family, he's playing Boba Fett, I could see it happening. I'll say this, James. I don't think he will, but I'm not going to be totally surprised. By the way, if the camera looks like it's shaking, the table I'm on, just touching the table makes it look like there's an earthquake in Vegas. My apologies for that. Anyway, I could totally see it happening. I just don't think it will, but we'll see. Let's see what happens. All right. Next up, we got John Redcorn, who writes, what are the chances Sony makes a live-action Spider-Gwen film? Very small, I think. If they do you think she's the main Spider person in the Sonyverse? I don't see them doing that, to be honest with you. I mean, look, the reality is she is the secondary character in a movie franchise that isn't, blowing up the global box office. It's blowing up the domestic box office, but it's not blowing up that. I don't see it happening. I could see her continuing to be a character, but I don't see them making a live action Spider-Gwen. But then again, we are talking about Sony that made a Morbius movie. They're making a Craven movie. They made a Venom movie. So maybe I just don't think they will, but it definitely wouldn't be out of character for Sony to do it. So I wouldn't bet money against it. I'm just going to guess no, but I'm not so sure about that I would put money on it. All right. John Redcore also writes, what makes more money, Blue Beetle or Gran Turismo? Ooh, I'm going to say Blue Beetle. I don't think either of those movies make a lot of money, but I'll tell you what, I am oddly fascinated by this Gran Turismo movie because it's not a video game movie. It's a true story. It's a story about a kid who played the video game and won a chance to actually drive a real car in a real racing team. This is all true. This is all based on real events. And so even though it's named after the video game for obvious reasons, it's not actually a video game movie. And it is quite fascinating to me. So I'm interested in it. But I think at the end of the day, even though I don't think Blue Beetle is going to make a ton of money, it's still a comic book film. And I think it will make more money than Gran Turismo. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing both of them, but I think Blue Beetle will be the one that makes more money. All right. Patrick writes, in my opinion, Transformers will do maybe 90 to 100 million opening weekend. Oh, I don't see that happening. I hope it does. Also excited for Flash as well. I hope DC can kick ass with movies again. Yeah, I don't see it making 90 to 100 million, but I would like it to. Again, look, I like this movie. I like Rise of the Beast. I like the new Transformers movie. It is not nearly as good as Bumblebee, but I personally think it's the second best Transformers movie. And I know that's not saying a lot, considering none of the Transformers movies have been great. I mean, I really like the first one that Michael Bay did, but yeah, I hope it does really well. I hope it can make 90 to 100. I see it making closer to 60, maybe 70. I mean, it had a pretty good opening night. It made $8.8 million on its opening night. Bumblebee only made like 2.5 million on its opening night. So here's hoping, man. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I hope it can do that well. All right, next up. King Daddy Goat writes, thoughts on the NBA finals so far? I'll tell you what, Miami's doing much better than I thought they would. I mean, look, Denver's going to win that series. There's nobody in the NBA who is going to stop them this year. I mean, Jokic is a beast. Jamal Murray, good Canadian kid. When he starts hitting everything, what are you going to do? I mean, but I'll tell you what, man, win or lose, the story of this year's NBA playoffs is the Miami Heat. They are the story of an 8th seed that had to win a play-in game just to get into the playoffs. They knock off the number 1 team. They knock out the favored Knicks. They knock out the favored Boston Celtics, and they won a game against the Denver Nuggets already. I mean, they are Win or lose, they are the story of the playoffs this year. All right, next up. We've got, where are we at? Christopher Brickner writes, I think Illumination's sister studio DreamWorks fits better for a Zelda film. Look at their How to Train Your Dragon films, but I get using Illumination. Listen, just because a studio's made movies a certain way, don't think that that's the only way they can make those movies, right? I mean, yes, Mario Brothers very much is in the vein of Minions and very much in the vein of Despicable Me, for sure. But don't think that that's the only thing they can do. They're still going to select a script and select a director, and then they'll work with them on that level. And they could make something pretty profound. Now, again, we talked about this on the podcast earlier today. I would personally much rather see them do a live action Zelda movie. I'd be totally all in for a live action Zelda movie. That's the way I think they should go. That being said, if they go the animation route, look at the success they had with Illumination Studios on Mario Brothers. Is the third biggest animated film in history now, biggest box office film of any film of 2023 so far. I don't know if any movie's going to beat it this year. So when you have that kind of success, it's hard not to go back and partner with them again. All right. Next up, we've got King Daddy Goat who writes, Josh Hartnett would be perfect in my opinion. It's hard to say whether he'd be perfect to play Two-Face because we don't know the script. We don't know what kind of Two-Face is going to be. All I care about is, do you get a great actor? And I think Josh Hartnett is a really good actor whose roadway to stardom hit a massive speed bump with Pearl Harbor. And I don't know why Ben Affleck survived that better than Josh Hartnett did, but I think Josh Hartnett's great. Whether he or Joel Edgerton gets it, I'm going to be perfectly happy. All right. Let's see here. Next up, we got Bright, who writes, Succession finale was good, not great. Loved how things ended up happening, but there was a lot of loose ends. 9 out of 10 show, though. Yeah, the show overall is brilliant. It is another huge triumph for HBO, right? That's all HBO does, man. They bend over and they crap out excellent television. They are so good at what they do. It's crazy. And Succession is another one that's going to be, up there and talked about with, Deadwood and Sopranos and all that kind of. I mean, I don't think it's a top 5 show that HBO's ever done, but it was a great show. And I'm kind of with you. I thought the ending was, I could give or take, the ending, but that's just me. All right. King Daddy Goat writes, 30 Days of Night is also a guilty pleasure. I love 30 Days of Night. As a matter of fact, I have a very special connection to 30 Days of Night. 30 Days of Night ended up being the first movie that Ann and I watched together. For our first date, and maybe I'm giving away too much information here, but for our first date, Ann and I went to dinner, and I was acting like I was cool because I was going to a press screening of the new Iron Man movie. I think it was either Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3. It might have been Iron Man 2. I can't remember which one exactly, but I was acting all cool that, how would you like to come to an early screening of a movie before anybody else gets to see it? Isn't that cool? It was so fucking lame. Anyway, but I'm thinking I'm hot shit, cool shit, because so we go to dinner. And then I remember I get this phone call from a buddy of mine who's also going to the screening. He says, where are you? I'm like, what are you talking about? The screening's at 7. They're like, no, the screening's at 6. And I look at my watch and we missed the screening. So here I am looking stupid on this first date with my wife. Well, obviously it didn't go too bad because she's now my wife. But we're on this first date and I was supposed to take this movie. So then I pulled the smoothest slick move, right? Well, I'm like, well, my place is right around the corner and I just got a copy of this new movie that's really good called 30 Days of Night. Have you ever seen it? She'd never seen it. Want to come back to my place and watch the movie? Thank you. 30 Days of Night. And now Ann and I are married. All thanks to 30 Days of Night. So thank you, Josh Hartnett, for that. And yeah, 30 Days of Night. Always be grateful for that movie. All right, next up. We've got Science Narrator who writes, Be funny if Josh Hartnett gets the part because he was Nolan's first choice for Batman before selecting Christian Bale. Is that so? I've never heard that. I have never heard that. Is that really true? I did not know that. No idea. I remember being very excited when they cast Christian Bale, though, because of American Psycho. I thought he was great in American Psycho, and I thought it was a really, really bold choice when they decided to go and get him to play Batman. Okay, 2 questions left here. Next up, we've got the Jughead 1, who writes, "Hey, John, looking forward to taking my nephew to see the new Spider-Verse movie this Saturday. Can't wait. More live chats, please. Love and respect from the UK, brother." I appreciate that, dude. You're going to have so much fun. It is, again, all film is subjective, so you may agree, you may disagree, that's fine. But for me, Spider-Verse is not just the best movie of the year, it is easily the best movie of the year. And there are some great movies coming out. I mean, Flash is coming up, Joyride is coming up, Oppenheimer's coming up, Dune's coming out, Mission Impossible's coming out. I mean, so many great movies coming, and hopefully 1 or 2 of those can be even better. But right now, for me, Spider-Verse is the best movie of the year, and I'm so excited that you get to go see it for the first time. Okay, let's see here. Next up, we've got, if I can find it, there we go. Corey M. writes, "I don't know if you've talked about this already, but there have been reports about Andy Muschietti possibly directing the Batman Brave and the Bold. What are your thoughts on him directing?" Well, I don't personally believe that. However, that being said, I think Muschietti is a great director. I was excited about him coming in to direct The Flash. I love what he was able to do with The Flash, despite all the problems and 9 years of development and 4 sets of writers and 4 different directors coming and going and blah, 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 blah. Despite all of that nonsense and all that noise, Andy Muschietti made a great movie with Flash. And that being said, look, all I care about when a director is being announced for a new movie is, are they a gifted director? Are they a gifted storyteller? Andy Muschietti is one. And so there are many directors I would be thrilled to hear are directing the new Batman Brave and the Bold. That being said, Andy Muschietti is definitely one of them. So if they do announce that he's going to direct it, and I don't know that I believe he is, but if he is, I, for one, will be very, very funny. It just can't have Ezra Miller in it. That's all I'm going to say. All right, guys. And that will do it for today's installment of our remote live from Las Vegas, Nevada, here in Caesar's Palace edition of Open Mic. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me here today and spending some of your day with me. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported our channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. I'm going to go get ready, go join Ann. We're going to go get ready and have dinner, and then we're going to go watch Jerry Seinfeld live in comedy concert tonight. I'm very excited about that. So I'll talk to you later, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.